Hey, this is Cam, and we're here for another of the quarantine series. And I'm joined with a great friend and leader, Kevin Trapani from the Redwoods Group. Kevin, for the people that may not be Y people that know Redwoods, tell a little bit about your role there and the company.
Yeah, well, first of all, Cam, thanks for having me. These things are fun, and it's always fun to spend some time with you. Redwoods is a social enterprise. We started the company 23 years ago to stop kids from being sexually abused. And we chose to use the platform of property and casualty insurance to do that, which sounds a little counterintuitive. But we knew as an insurer of youth-serving organizations like YMCAs, we would have the data about how kids got abused or how kids would drown or how kids got hurt in general. We could aggregate that data and share that with our customers so that they could change their operations in such a way that kids in their care would be more safe. And over 23 years, that's worked. We've been really grateful to be welcomed into the movements, YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, camps, etc. I think we've made a difference, and that's how our business works. So to the extent that we can help keep kids safer, our business thrives. Hopefully your business thrives, and it's good partnership.
Great. How many employees, Redwoods?
Yeah, 85 employees. And we insure, as you know, just a little less than half all the YMCAs in the country as one example. So it's a countrywide, now actually continent-wide business. We're the largest insurer of YMCAs in Canada now as well.
Wow.
So we've been blessed.
Yeah, that's great. Kevin and I are longtime friends, and I always introduce him as Kevin is a Democrat and a Dookie, and I'm a Tar Heel and a Republican, but we're still friends. And we make it work. And maybe we should be, I wish our country was more like us, that we've been able to debate a little bit and not irritate each other to where we don't speak or that we're not friends anymore. And
well,
actually, you pulled me a little more to the center than I was probably 10 years ago. So.
And you the same with me. I think we agree that, stuff gets done in the center. Stuff doesn't get done at the fringes. And those, fringe points of view are important to inform the conversation, but there's a lot more that you and I agree on than there is that we disagree on.
Yeah, I think if most people would talk, they would find common ground much more. So tell us.
What do they say? They say hatred never survives the first encounter with the enemy.
That's great.
Right,
That's great. So tell us a little bit about what's been your leadership focus leading your 85 employees at Redwoods during this period?
Yeah, so Cam, in the first place, we are really very, very fortunate, right? Because we are all able to work remotely. And so literally on, what was it, March 15th or whatever, we just said, that's it, we're all going home. Everybody had laptops, everybody had connectivity. And so we were really fortunate. And we, as you've known us for a long time, Redwood's been through a lot of difficult times, the global meltdown in 2008 and 9/11. We've survived all that, and we've never laid anybody off. And so we've been very fortunate. So from the beginning, our folks knew their jobs were safe, but we occupy a different place than a YMCA does, or a Boys and Girls Club, in that insurance revenues continue to flow in, even though we went through a quick process to assess that all of our customers were either completely shut down or largely shut down, as you know. And so we returned, in the last month, we've returned a little better than $2 million worth of premium back to our customers as a recognition that their exposures to loss were reduced. But even with that, they've been able to continue to work. And a little bit of a Maslow's hierarchy, right? When you know that your most basic needs are being taken care of, in other words, I'm still employed, I can pay my rent or mortgage or whatever, it allows your people to think more in a more self-actualized way. So what we've tried to do is to be sure that we communicate a lot and really, really clearly. So we have regular all-employee meetings, regular check-ins. Our all-employee meetings always start with one single question, which is, how are you holding up? And 0 to 10. We're sort of watching how people are doing and watching the people at the fringes. But so the one thing I would say, Cam, for us that we've had the luxury of doing is that we've been really, really clear to continue to connect people to purpose. They are not connected now physically to one another because they're working remotely, but they can be collectively connected to purpose. And so we feel that if we can help Y leaders like you know what their options are in terms of how to open camp safely, or how to get back to having members in or around the building, if we can be committed to that work, then we can feel connected to our original purpose, and that makes us feel less like it's about us, woe is me, more about it's about other people, which is a core lesson of leadership.
That's great. So what pieces of advice or leadership lessons or nuggets, however you want to phrase that, would you give to Y leaders or even other leaders that may be listening to this? What 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you give to other leaders leading their teams through this?
Yeah, so thanks for asking the question that way, Cam. And you're a great leader, and I've learned a lot about leadership from you. And so I'm going to start in a place actually that maybe traditional leadership lessons don't start. A lot of times we think of the leader as being the guy that's tougher than everybody else, and I'll take that hill and that kind of stuff. And you and I were just having a little conversation about Michael Jordan, the greatest of all time, and what kind of a leader Michael was. But where I would start, so the 3 lessons I'd share just off the top of my head, and the first one would be, is really, really important to practice self-care. Having to be what our people need us to be, having to meet our people where they need us to meet them, having to have vision and confidence and all those kinds of things at times of crisis is really self-depleting. And we have to be our whole selves to be able to show up in a way that's energetic and passionate and sustainable. This is not a sprint, right? Even though there are YMCAs opening up all over the country right now, including yours in Shelby, we're going to close down again. I'm confident of that, and we're going to open up again, and it's going to be a long time. And so we've got to take care of ourselves. So whether that means working out, practicing your faith, being with your family, eating well, sleeping enough, whatever the case might be, we've got to take care of ourselves. So that's first. The second thing is that also might be counterintuitive is we've got to work on developing deep competence in areas that we didn't know we need to be competent in. Now, I'll give you a quick example of this. In 2008, when the economy melted down, it happened over a weekend, you'll remember. And one of the companies that went down over that weekend in September was AIG. And AIG at the time was Redwood's principal capital partner. So we woke up to a Monday morning where our customers wanted to know, what are you going to do about this?
Yeah.
And so in 36 hours, I had to come to understand what a collateralized debt obligation was and what it meant for our customers. And week after week, you may remember this, every week we held, in those days there weren't webinars, there were conference calls. And we just talked about what was happening, what it was going to mean to us and to our customers. And I had a real close relation to the guy who was the CEO of insurance operations at AIG at the time. And I just kept learning and learning and learning. And so as a Y leader, you have to understand things that you never thought you had to understand. So how does the COVID-19 virus aerosolize in a fitness center? And what does that mean for the practices you have to put in place? And so investing ourselves and being deeply competent as quickly and as possible is really important for us to make better decisions and help our folks have confidence in us. And then the last one is really to live in a difficult time in a way that's absolutely consistent with who you are when it's not a difficult time. We can't all of a sudden decide I'm going to show up in a different way. So being authentic to yourself, to your values, to your mission and purpose, and to your community is never more important than in a time of crisis.
Yeah, that's great advice. I was reading something today, and it was actually from a basketball coach, and he was just talking about humility and just naming the leaders from in the wars that just said, "Oh, I don't know how to do that. Help me through that era," you know. And he referenced all these non-athletic leaders who just had this humility of saying, "I'm not sure how to accomplish that. Y'all help me through this." But that sometimes the leader has to show humility was the point, you know, and that they don't have all the answers, you know.
Nobody has all the answers. And you know this, you're one of the great collaborators I've ever known in my life. You know that in Shelby, nobody gets anything big done by themselves.
Yeah.
Right? We're in this together, and sometimes you'll have an answer that I don't have. I might have an answer you don't have. Right? And so that's the way it works. Right? It's not about us, and it's not about us having all the answers. And
learning new competencies. I remember one of when we built our first building, we did the tax exempt financing, and I would sit in those bank meetings and nod my head like I knew everything, and then walk out in the hallway and look at our attorney and go, "What's this word mean?" Explain arbitrage to me.
Right. But then you had to turn around, go back to your board, and your board needed to know that you knew what that was about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the meetings, I was going, "Sure, yeah, whatever you say, let's do that." Yeah.
You know, it's funny, Cam, because we both have been in a Y for a long enough period of time that we remember what a Y leader looked like, 20 or 50 years ago. But today's leader has to have multilingual competence, right? So you have to be able to speak finance, regulatory, you have to speak governmental ease, you have to be able to talk to strategic philanthropic investors, but you also have to understand how to run program, how to deal with HR issues in a time of really different challenges. You have to understand multiculturalism. I mean, the range of competencies that you have to have as a nonprofit leader today is really overwhelming.
Yeah, even for our program directors that are young, I often say I was hired to play with kids and have a good time with kids, and today it's about risk management and ratios and legal, and the job's not as fun for them anymore. I just had fun as a 22-year-old program director, just playing with kids all the time. And so if you want to learn how fun it was, watch the Mo Bell. We talk about his first job as a program director, what he would take day camp to the tobacco factory.
Exactly. I saw that. It was awesome. And I thought, Mo didn't tell me that story when we first talked about being his insurance partner. It's different.
And we drove buses without CDLs and everything else. And so, but here's the real reason I got you today is tell me your top 3 Duke sports moments.
Wait, let me just say, my top 3 Duke sports moments don't involve any time that we beat Carolina.
Thank you.
You can either decide that's me being gentle on you, or you can decide it's because we don't beat Carolina that much, or you can just decide that I'm being honest here. And so I'll give you my top 3, and they're for reasons you might not guess. So the first one is the easy one. It's Leitner's shot against UK in the regional finals to win that game. But it's not, and that moment was unbelievable. I think it was unbelievable for any sports fan. But it's amazing to me because of the leadership lessons behind it. So Kentucky kid hits the shot to put them up 1 with 2.6 seconds to go. Kay calls a timeout, brings his kids over, and there's 2 things that happen. The first is he puts his kids around him, he looks them in the eye and says, "We're going to win, right?" Right. So let's just understand that's what we're here. We're going to win. We know that, and put all the rest of the stuff away. That's the first thing. Then he calls the play, turns to Grant Hill. Grant, can you make the pass? Christian, what's that, right? Then they've tried to play before and whatever. And then he lets everybody go. As they're running out, he grabs Bobby Hurley by the back of the jersey. He brings Hurley back to him and he says, "Bobby, that was all BS. This play's going to you. I want you to know this play's going to you." And Hurley gets his chest all up like this and he runs out and he heads off he's going to the far corner. And he's got to run a curl around the baseline, pop out a screen from Thomas Hill, and ostensibly he'd be available in the corner for a shot. And Hurley's ready. The play was never going to Bobby Hurley. It wasn't going to Bobby Hurley for any reason whatsoever. It was always going to Christian Leitner. But the reason Kay did that was because he knew Hurley, and he knew his head, he knew his emotions. And he knew if Hurley knew that he was a decoy on that play, he wouldn't put his all into running it out. And the play depended on Kentucky guarding Bobby Hurley. And so, of course, in the aftermath of it, they just won one of the great games of all time. Hurley didn't care. It made a difference. But Kay knew how to meet Hurley where he needed to be met. So that's the first one. The second one is also Duke basketball. They're not all 3 Duke basketball, but the second was Duke from the year before. And it's Duke beating Vegas in the semifinals. So Duke had gotten hammered the year before. The same team came back. Vegas was undefeated that entire year. Maybe one of the great college basketball teams.
I actually pulled for Duke to beat Vegas. So
last time? That was the last time you pulled for Duke?
No, I've pulled for them probably since then.
So here's the amazing thing. Of course, Hurley hit a huge shot toward the end when Vegas was getting closer and closer. That put the game away. They win the game, arguably one of the great upsets in the history of the NCAA tournament. So Duke wins, and they're running off the court, and Bobby Hurley is whacking everybody in the butt, and he's yelling at them, "Don't go to the beach. Don't go to the beach." Because they had not won the national championship then. They had one more game to play. They had to play Kansas on Monday night. And their whole thing always was, if we can get by Vegas, we'll go to the beach. We'll head off. We're done. Our work is done. And he wanted their heads in it, even in that moment, for one more game. So that meant a lot to me. And then the last one is our lacrosse team's first national championship. We'd been there knocking at the door a bunch of times, 4 straight Final Fours. And you know, Cam, I played lacrosse at Duke, and so this one's personal for me. So we're playing Notre Dame, NCAA championship, and went to overtime.
Oh gosh!
And our kid CJ Costabile. I'm sorry about this Notre Dame thing. I didn't get it. I didn't get a Carolina one, but the CJ Costabile does a clamp and go, high risk face-off move. He gets the ball, runs right down the seam, unsettled situation, boom, in the corner. 5 seconds into overtime, we win. And of course, I'm watching on TV. People are jumping around. Everybody's going crazy on the field. And it's just a moment of chaos and celebration, sticks and helmets up in the air and all kinds of stuff. And I look down at my phone, not 2 minutes after the game is over, and I've got an email from Coach Danowski. It says, "Men of Duke," written to the entire alumni base. "That one was for you. Thank you for letting us stand on your shoulders." Not 2 minutes after the game, he's got the humility to understand that he's put in that position by all the years of people who went before. And so not only was that an unbelievable Duke sports moment, but yet another lesson of contextualized leadership, right? Coach D knows, and by the way, Coach D is the leading, has more Division I lacrosse wins than anybody in the history of the game, just like Coach K's got it in basketball. So pretty special couple of leaders to learn lessons from.
Being the father of a Notre Dame girl grad, I watched that lacrosse match too. Not a lacrosse guy, but I can remember watching it and agonizing because it was a great match, being so excited about overtime and just 5 seconds, you're right, just right into it, just to be deflated over lacrosse.
So Cam, I've got a question for you, and I know you don't want to go too long in these things, but you and I are locked in the same work here, right? We're trying to make sure the movement and local wise thrive and survive in this new post-COVID world. As you sit and think about what faces you in Shelby, what faces the Y movement, what are the 3 greatest opportunities or challenges you think face the movement right
now? I think the challenges create the opportunities for us. I think there's a challenge of technology and isolation and people trying to find a new business model. But I think the opportunity is in that what we do best is bring people together and build community. And I think that we're going to be more relevant in the future and relied on to bring diverse people together and how that looks. You know, that might change differently, but as the world talks about working out at home and all the technology advances, I think the opportunity is going to be us to be more relevant and bring people together. And a big spoke in that wheel, and I think some wise dabble in this now, it's been one of the dreams for us, but I think there's a challenge of the mental health world that's going on, the challenges around mental health in our world. And we've dipped our toe into that area, but I think that's a huge opportunity to put family counselors in our operation to deal with the myriad of problems that our communities face and our kids and our families have, and adults and seniors in our buildings. And I think that's going to be an opportunity, and part of our business model in the future is how we help support some of the mental health. But and then I think the third thing for me, which is always prominent, I think it's good to great. We got to get back to that Jim Collins discussion, and it's our mission and values. That's a challenge and an opportunity for us, is to really drill back down into our mission and say, hey, this is our core value and this is what we're going to be about.
Well, it's what you went right to, right? So everybody shuts down no more fitness on March 15th or whatever that date was.
Yeah.
But you swung automatically, right? You started taking care of the kids of essential workers, you started feeding people. I mean, you just did things that were, you didn't have to think about, wait, is our mission,
Yeah.
right? You went right to what your real mission is, which is building community.
Yeah. But I think they're big challenges, but I think all those challenges, the why has been, that's our story of the history of our why. We've always rallied. And I think that all the challenges that are out there are going to be big opportunities for our why and on the backside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Cleveland County is lucky to have a leader like you. I don't know if your board knows that entirely, but I'm guessing that they do. And I'm grateful for you.
I've been blessed to have a lot of great leaders around me, staff and board and friends like you. And I appreciate you giving us some time and sharing your wisdom. And I know we'll cross paths soon. And we didn't get a chance to talk about grandbabies, but go enjoy quarantining with grandchildren.
Hey, listen, I have to tell you, we've been 9 weeks with now one. We celebrated her first birthday 10 days ago, I guess. And you want to talk about in a horrible situation that nobody would ever have wanted. The blessing of being 9 weeks with your grandbaby is unbelievable. It is beyond description. So thanks for even mentioning that. That's our highlight.
All right. Thanks and take care. I appreciate you.
Same to you, Cam. Be well. Be safe.